Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic episode coming up for you tonight. Paranormal investigator, shaman, Reiki Master Leitreanna Terry-Brown is with us. Coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, is my co-hostess, Vanessa Hogel. And down in the chat room, our favorite chat moderator, Quarantine Ghost, whoever he or she may be. You guys keep trying to figure it out, which is funny. Well, coming up tonight, well, actually live right now, Leitreanna Terry-Brown is with us right this very moment. It's been a long day, folks, bringing in boxes and stuff all day long. It's been kind of crazy. You guys know I'm in the middle of a move, but we are still doing the show. Yeah, Lee Brown, I've known her quite a few years, almost as long as Vanessa. She is the hostess of a number of radio shows. She's a Reiki master, a shaman, a paranormal investigator, fourth generation, and many, many other things. It's an absolute pleasure to have her on the show. We're going to be talking about many different spiritual topics tonight. Lee, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been... quite a few years that we've known each other. I've been on your show a couple of times. We finally have you on ours. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I've heard great things about the show, and I really appreciate your allowing me to be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So one of the topics, you have several topics you want to talk about tonight, and you are very learned in many spiritual topics, but you thought an interesting one to cover this evening would be reincarnation, which is a topic that a lot of people have questions about. You know, what happens to us when we pass on? Do we come back here? How is it that we come back here? What's your take on reincarnation?
I feel that reincarnation usually happens with, I feel like people that feel like they were either cheated or they didn't get an opportunity to achieve the things they needed to, or they wanted the extra challenge, the extra effort of being able to go back through another life. As an example, my son, Elijah, was the premiere episode, the concept child, if you will, for The Ghost Inside My Child. And not only was he able to talk about memories that he shouldn't have had as a toddler, about World War II, about hiding from Nazis, things like that. There were a total of 27 different things we were able to confirm by using a Russian translator. It took us years to be able to put it all together. That we were able to collaborate and get all the information for. But listening to him talk about the things that he did, the fears that he had for the children that he saved, what happened to them, how are they, did he make a difference? Fireworks that was particularly traumatic for him. He didn't think they were fireworks. He thought that they were bombs, and he would jump on me to protect me, and he would yell incoming. What child does that at 3?
Yeah, really. I mean, that's really young to have that kind of a reaction.
Now children are afraid of fireworks, just like puppies, or dogs, but to yell incoming, and he had never heard that before. So, and then when my husband was deployed, and the advice that my son gave my husband before his deployment, that's when I knew how intense this really was. I feel like if you look at that particular case, and then you look at other cases of people that I have studied over the years, there's a lot of either their life ends very traumatically, or something has happened where they feel like they want to find out more. They feel like their life was shortened and they deserved a bit, more of a chance, that type thing. Lots of times it's due to war or sudden illness, so there's a lot of triggers too. Whenever we could talk about that too if you'd like. But
yeah, absolutely. I think people would certainly be interested in that. We've covered reincarnation only a couple times here on the show, so any further details I know our viewers would certainly be interested in.
There's some people that think that, if you do awful things in your life, that you'll come back the next life and it's very challenged. You have lots of heartache and or if you're very beautiful, the next time you come back, you won't be as beautiful. You might have, you know, something wrong with you. So, I don't really subscribe to that feeling. I feel like that we chose. Oftentimes, I've been able to verify that we choose where we go, and lots of times we'll reincarnate with people that we had lived with before. That it's actually a choice.
So you
It's
think
not
we have
like
like a
some sort of
soul group?
punishment.
That's
Yes,
that's a term people like to use, a soul group. So you think that is certainly a real thing?
that is very much a real thing.
Okay.
I've
Yes,
had
I have
yes,
it.
really. I would love to hear
Yes.
more about that too.
Yes, I have a very large group that I've actually um, come come back into contact with over the past 5 years. And like you and I talked about before the show, all of my lives have ended very traumatically, very, very traumatically. I've watched my own hanging. I have watched my own gang rape and murder by strangulation. Um, that was that was probably the most difficult. But all of that happened to me when I was 20 years or younger. In all of these previous lives, I've never, until this particular life, I've never made it past the 20-year mark. It's always been around 17, 18 years old. This is the first life where I have not only made it past that age frame, I have born a child, and it took me 6 tries. I had 6 miscarriages, but one of those miscarriages was twins. Um, so
Oh,
this is the first child I've ever actually been able to have, and the only child I've ever been able to have. And he's 17 now, and I I've been able to accomplish in this life what I have never been able to accomplish in any of the previous lives, based on being who and what I am. I'm a card carrying, crystal toting, tree hugging, dirt worshiping, candle practicing witch. And that has actually cost me my life in every single one of my lives. And this is the first life that it hasn't done that. And I didn't even come out of the broom closet until, what was that, Mike? Really come out publicly less than 6 years ago, give or take. And I mean publicly
I
come out.
understand.
And since then, once I owned it, instead of shying away from it and hiding with it and being murdered for it, everything has changed. And the people that have come into my life that I know for a fact, and I've seen the past lives with them, it's everything.
And when you see someone that you knew before, the realization is so real. I mean, you can actually feel it go
Oh
through
yeah.
your whole body.
Oh yeah.
It's
The
almost
sound
like
of a voice.
and it's like, oh my God, there you are.
That's exactly what it is. You hear someone's voice and you're like, whoa, that's mine.
Uh-huh.
This person is mine. Whether it's
Uh-huh.
a friend, a lover, a family member, it doesn't matter what it is. That is the best way that I can put it. This person is mine. They're my people. And I always believe that we are whole individuals in and of ourselves,
Right.
that we don't need anybody else to complete us, but we do need these people to complete our soul family.
I love that soul family. That's beautiful.
And that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's just, I would lay down my life for any one of them.
I understand what you mean.
So
Absolutely understand what you mean.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take that over. Y'all going ahead.
Oh, it's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing it with me. I have always had feelings that I knew that didn't belong to this lifetime. Reoccurring dreams, fears of things that weren't rational. My husband had the same thing, and memories that it's just no way that it transpired in this lifetime. And then when my son, he was trying to get up on the bed. He was a little guy, so we had to heave him up on the bed. And he said, Mommy, I want to thank you for having me. I chose you to be my mommy. I'm sorry you didn't have the baby before me,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to come to you. And how did he know that I had a miscarriage before?
Mm-hmm. My son did the same thing when he was 2.
Really?
Yes, when he was 2. And the viewers have heard this many times, but I heard him talking in his room, and it wasn't in the standard 2-year-old gibberish, Swahili, how I say it, they're speaking in Swahili. He was talking to his Bubba and Sissy, and
Oh,
he did not know that I had lost a set of twins on my 30th birthday. So, and I had him when I was 31, 30. When I was 30 as well, the end of my 30s. He did the same thing with my ex-husband in regards to warning him about work, and he did that at 3 years old.
that's
At 3 years
amazing.
old,
You have
my
no
ex-husband
idea
was a
how
cop.
comforting this is to me,
Yes.
because there's so few people I can talk about this to that will really relate.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I know
goodness.
exactly what you're talking
Oh,
about, and it to have somebody who doesn't believe in this, like my ex-husband, come running into the bedroom and look me dead in the face and say, "Did you hear what your son just said? Not our son, your son, because of what just happened." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "But why?" I said, "Because he's warning you, numbnuts." And sure enough, it saved his life that night. It
oh,
saved his life that night, what he told him.
that's incredible.
Yeah, at 3 years old. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And it is extremely difficult when you try to express these types of feelings and you have so many questions and you
Yes,
have nobody
nobody to talk
to
to.
talk
That's
to
right.
because they think you're freaking crazy.
That's right. They think you're crazy. They think something's wrong with your kid. Is your child schizophrenic? You get all kinds of questions. What did you do? What did you do when you were pregnant with your child? I got it all.
Oh, yeah.
I got it all. But I was very fortunate to have my husband. He understood. He analyzed everything that my son said. He's got a memory. Very fortunate to have his memory because I'm emotionally going through it with my son, and my husband is on it. He's listening, because he talked about jumping out of an airplane with a pillow over his head. Well, the
Oh,
pillow was
bless. The
it was
parachute.
square. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
square parachute, and he talked about getting shot. He was crawling and could say certain words, and he was starting to walk, and he would pull his leg behind him, and I said, "Baby, stand up," and he said, "No, no, shot." And I said, "Baby, you didn't go to the doctor." He said, "No, bang bang."
Oh,
So he was
oh, bless
remembering
him.
all of this, of the PTSD has been real. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. To this day,
Like you were
yes,
discussing.
to this day, every sweatshirt I have, every t-shirt that comes up high, I have to cut the neck out of because I've died multiple times via strangulation or hanging. I love fire. I love being around fire, but I am absolutely terrified of burning and absolutely terrified of drowning. And there are very specific reasons for that. I love water. I don't have to get into it.
Hmm.
It's just one of those things. I know each and every way that I've died, and I've actually been remote viewing for a team in England who was investigating what happened to be the actual area that I was hung at, and
Oh,
and they actually had an EVP ask for me by name.
I was gonna ask about that when you were.
This is going to freak you out, and then I'm going to shut up. Okay,
Oh
it's going to
no!
freak you out. The reason that is so pertinent is the entire time my mother was pregnant with me, my name was Brandy Nicole. The moment she gave birth to me, my name changed to Vanessa. And that is the name they asked for.
Your mother knew. She knew you.
So that's bizarre. So,
It's beautiful. To me, it's beautiful. Yes, it's like, yes! Somebody that gets it.
we're not weird.
No, we're just aware.
Exactly. They're sometimes too aware.
Yeah. My son wanted to go by the name Peter. He said, "My name's Peter, like Peter, not Peter." And he kept trying to say it, and he kept trying to say it. And I found I had to just dig looking for books. I had people, libraries, all over the country looking for anything that I could, anything I could get for, help. And finally I found a book at Brown University, and my last name is Brown. I thought, okay, well, that's an omen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Russian. And I found a lady to translate it for me. And I have a video of my son listening to her talk. And she said, I know who you are. All 27 of these confirmations you've been talking about since you were 2 years old is in this book. He said, well, what's my name? And she said, Leonid Petrovsky. And he said, finally, I've been trying to say
Oh,
Petrovsky.
bless.
He was so excited. And to this day, we talk about, okay, old man, what's Petrovsky wanting to do today? Because he, wears the old bow ties and the old newsboy hats and things like, he's like an old fart, he's 18, but he's like an old
But that's
guy.
beautiful, because of your understanding and because of yours and your husband's compassion and your due diligence in trying to find out exactly what was going on, he can be comfortable in his own skin. That is an unbelievable gift, and that is something that most of us don't have. It took me to getting into my 40s. I'm going to be 49 in March. I didn't get comfortable in my own skin until I was around 42.
It wasn't happening to this child, not on my watch, because he thanked me from the time he was able to really speak. Thank you for being my mother. I chose you. And I knew then that I had a responsibility.
And that's exactly what it is. I've done a couple of shows on this, and I'm glad that you're here so you can stress it as well. That is something that I think a lot of parents that have these children, because let's face it, y'all, a lot of us do, okay?
Right.
Don't poo-poo it away.
That's right.
Even if you don't understand it, even if you're not involved in the paranormal or the metaphysical whatsoever, let your child speak. Let them draw. Let them try to tell you in the only way they know how.
Right.
Who they are.
That's right.
Yeah, you can figure it out later, but don't automatically go, must be a problem child, where's Ritalin?
Oh, yeah.
That happens far too often.
Yes, it does. And I work with kids, have for 21 years. And I will tell you right now, it's bullshit. Yeah. Just saying.
So speaking of choosing, we've had a lot of questions coming in from the chat, and I would like to get to some of these. Joe Chandler asks, I have a disabled daughter. Do you think she chose to come back disabled?
Oh, gosh. It's very possible that she was injured in a past life and that it followed her.
That's another question here, too, from Victoria M. asking, I've heard that when you're born with birthmarks are representative of wounds you received in a past life. So being disabled could also be the same thing.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I've talked with several people from India that work at Reiki hospitals, and they have also collaborated. We talked a long time about this, and they agree. And Dr. Woodard, who is a child psychologist and hypnotist, he said that he has seen that friend as well. So I feel good, not just saying this is my opinion, because it's worth what you pay for it. But there's other people out there that are saying the same thing. Lots of times, like I said, when my son was pulling his leg, when he said I was shot, that kind of thing. He's bang, bang. He's still
feeling pain in his leg.
Yeah, he actually ended up going to the hospital. We had to go to Shriners. There was other things that came about with that, and he's finally recovered from that. But he does favor the other leg, and he said he remembers it. And just like we take love in or pain in, and we carry it with us because our awareness follows us into eternity, into the next realm. I feel that these types of pains do as well. It's just something that goes in with the DNA because we make those choices.
A lot of people's phobias are based on past life experience.
Yes.
What about things that we've learned in a past life? Do those follow us? Do we continue to progress and grow? Because it seems like, some people that we have today, there's a lot of different theories. Either they've regressed, or some people theorize that some of these people may be like a newer soul and they're just starting off and they're at the very beginning of learning.
there's people that I have seen that I know that they're asleep. They're an old soul, but they are starting over. And usually that's a gift because something very traumatic happened and it needs to be removed so that they'll get a chance to start over. Then there's others, that are the eternal soul and it's following them. My son could understand and speak German as well as English up until he was 5. Um, Now it wasn't fluent because English wasn't fluent,
Right.
but we were watching the History Channel and we were just sitting in the kitchen. We have a television in there, we're a family, big family. And so we're watching this thing and my son is running up and down the hall. He's just a busy little fella. And he stopped and looked back and Hitler was making a moves, something like this. And we weren't paying attention what was going on with it. But my son starts laughing. He walks right up to the TV and he's laughing. And he says, "Oh, he's funny." And I said, "Son, that's Hitler. There's nothing about that guy that's funny." He said, No, he thinks he's pretty." And I thought,
wow.
What?
Wow.
And then the translation came on and he was doing this and he was telling a joke that he was pretty.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Right. And so I realized, he was laughing and he was translating it for us. And then he ran out of the room like no big deal. And we're sitting there looking at each other like, did that just really happen? Holy crap, that just happened. So, that just things like that carried over.
Mm-hmm. But the German only lasted a few years. That's fallen by the wayside now?
It has fallen by the wayside.
Okay.
Well,
he could probably pick it up again, though, just like that.
It'd probably be a lot easier for him, yeah.
Yeah, he was Russian, but did question German soldiers. And because he had to learn German to speak with them, it was something that was traumatic in his head.
Yeah.
So he was able to remember it. The Russian he can understand more of, but he can't say it. The pronunciation's gone, but he can still, to this day, we'll watch movies in German and he'll tell me what's going on.
Oh, that's really wild. Yeah.
Well, let me blow your mind.
Sure,
My husband is in the military, okay, and he's an armorer, and he's see, you see the gun?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep it this way though. But my son, when he was 6 years old, could field strip and function check an AK-47 blindfolded.
Wow.
A Russian AK.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, of course, it wasn't loaded. I'm not a moron, but I am a redneck, and we are gun-toting people, and I am a badass shot, yes, and so is my whole family. And if you got a problem with that, I'm so sorry for you, but not to you guys specifically, but that is just who we are. But my husband said, "Son, have you ever seen one of these?" He said, "Oh yeah, I used to have one."
Oh wow.
And he took one of his blankets, SpongeBob blanket, threw it out in the middle of the floor, sat down Indian style, and he started taking it apart and putting it back together.
Really?
And my husband sat there and said,
Whoa.
"Son, you get good at this." He said, "Well, I ought to. I had one." And he said, "Watch this." And he took my husband's belt and put it around, tied it, and did it blindfolded. Now, that blew my mind.
Yes.
That's really wild. Yeah.
Now,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Reincarnation's real, people.
That. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, though, to me, how many people could hear that exact story and their brain will immediately try to discredit it.
Yeah.
Immediately. And that used to make me angry, but I realized it's fear-based.
It is very fear-based.
Yes.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Yes.
Vanessa, you are the woman. I like you so much. Do you have any idea how much my life would have been so much easier, 12 years ago if I had met you back then? Because I felt like it was my husband and I against the world. I really did.
I understand. And when I say fear-based, I don't mean that there are a bunch of pansies walking around, but there is something very frightening about being accountable and being held accountable for the choices you've made, not only in previous lives, but in the ones you continue to make in this life. And when I see people that have that perspective, when they are that afraid to be confronted or confront themselves, I pity them. I really do. I actually have sympathy and empathy for them, because I too, a long time ago, was that person where I tried so hard to say, this isn't, there's no way, I must be nuts. And it took my son pulling me out of the closet, like, not like it did you, but like your son did, for me to get to this point. So I get it. I get pissed off about it, but I still get it. But I do get mad.
I understand.
But I rein it in. I find the peace in me. That's what I do. I find the peace in me. But
studying Reiki and Qigong and studying shamanism and being able to understand how to use a medicine wheel and how energy works, it really explained a lot. Helped me really wrap my mind around the idea of the eternal soul and how we can become part of the Great Spirit, and then how we are chosen to come back, or we earn the ability to come back, however you want to phrase it. But I knew my husband before. Okay, I got to tell you this, Vanessa. I've just got to. I'm sorry, Mike. Just
no, go right ahead. I'm sure it's gonna be a fantastic story.
Okay, so the first time I saw him, I turned around and looked at him, and he looked at me, and our mouths dropped open, and we both said at the same time, "Oh my God, there you are."
Yep.
And that was it. And
yep.
After many years of going through Elijah's story, and then my daughter was in on this as well. Okay, she had memories, but she wasn't fully awake like my son. I actually had an attunement for him while I was still pregnant with him, because I was having such a difficult pregnancy. I needed the extra energy in order to, make it through the pregnancy. I nearly lost him twice. And so my daughter could remember things, and my husband and I would immediately separate them. We would take one on one side of the house, one on the other, and we would work really hard to make sure that they didn't contaminate each other. That's where the investigator part came in. Okay. We would figure out, okay, what does she say? She's saying it's not Peter, it's Petre. It's like Petre. And so he would say, it's like Peter. It's not Peter, but it's like. So, we would go back and forth. Finally, I was able, the whole story is, and I've got to write this. But my husband was a Russian pilot that crash landed in France in my farm. I was by myself. My father and mother and most everybody was killed, but my brother and myself. We were starving. I was able to save him. He had brain damage, and one of his eyes had blood pool up in it. It was horrible. And of course, there were, with all of this, there were, we did past life regression, hypnosis,
right,
like that. I mean, this has been a series of about 20 people trying to help us through this. There's been videos, there's been people reading recurring dreams. So this isn't just me making up a cute little story. Okay, this is very emotional for me. So I was able to nurse him back to health, and I didn't want anybody to know he was there, because at the time Nazis were in France, and I knew that they would target him. And he was fixing things and helping us around the farm. And finally, I wasn't hungry, and I had been starving. My brother and I had been, we were really just barely making it. I was working with a newspaper trying to get information out. Somebody ended up turning us in. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. But we ended up getting caught. And I was pregnant by my husband. His name was Yerky. I could still, his big brown eyes. When I woke up and I could see that was him, I loved him with all of my heart.
Oh.
And Nazis attacked us. My husband, the damage to his brain it came back. I saw the blood pull back up in his eye, and then it's coming out of his nose. And he died. And I was pregnant, and I didn't want to lose the baby. Of course, I wanted to have his child. And Nazis came. They knew that he had crash landed. I'd been turned in, and I was attacked and raped. And I was losing the baby. I was hemorrhaging, and I would not let anybody take the baby.
Wow.
And I bled to death.
Mm.
So that's how that went. But my
It's tragic, but it's still a love story.
It was beautiful,
Yeah.
and the fact that we were able to find each other again,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew each other, but we hadn't put it all together.
Yeah,
Maybe
but like right when you saw each other, you knew.
I was like, oh God, there you are.
Yeah.
That was it. And Elijah had been one of his soldiers, and he actually took care of my daughter, who was his daughter. And they were saving children. They were smuggling them out of Russia.
Wow.
The Air Force in Russia had fallen, and they were getting these children out because they were going to be taken captive. And my daughter, which was at that time his daughter, she drowned to death. She would dress as a beautiful, wealthy woman, and these children were her children. And she would get on a boat, which I didn't realize at all the geography of how Russia was, and this huge river that goes around it, and the boat that would go across. I didn't understand all of that. I was understanding it through my children. I mean, I've studied geography, but I mean, who thinks about this stuff? I'm thinking of my kids,
Right.
And she's telling me she's on a boat, and she's got these kids with her, and I'm thinking, you're on a boat? Where are you going? And then I look, and it's a river, and she was attacked.
Oh.
And she had on this big yellow dress, and the dress was so heavy. She wouldn't leave the children. They were terrified. She couldn't get them to come on, and she wouldn't leave them, and she drowned when the boat went down.
Oh, that's
sad.
sad.
We were able to confirm it. So she earned the right to come back. And like you, Vanessa, this is the first time she remembers being married. This is the first time she's been able to have children. I've got a little granddaughter.
It's something.
But isn't it terrifying when you do something new?
Yes, it is. But it's also unbelievably empowering, because it's for every one of those things that I never got to accomplish before. When I do it now, I won.
I did it. Yeah.
I won. I did it. I won. And it always enters my mind, the bastards didn't get me.
Yeah,
that's right. What always enters my mind is they didn't get me. But that doesn't mean they haven't tried. I was raped when I was 18. I was attacked by and this is in this life. I was attacked and brutally beaten by somebody in a bar when I was 19. And then there have been other instances where strangers have tried to attack me. I fought off an intruder when I was 17 with an 1891 bayonet and a long-haired chihuahua.
A long-haired chihuahua.
Yep, he followed me home from the convenience store. So it isn't without the same attempts on my life. They just have not been successful. And I know the reason for that now, and it's not one I'm willing to discuss right now, but I know the reason for that, and I know where I'm going, and I know what I'm doing, and I know I earned it.
Let me ask you something, Lee, because you did also want to talk about psychic kids. I want to try to segue into that a little bit. I have a ton of questions about reincarnation, and we'll get to some of those here in just a little bit, because our viewers, our Mad Hatters down there, have been asking some great ones. But so with psychic kids, are some of these things that they are picking up on, are they actually picking up on things like a past life, and that is being interpreted as their psychic? Is that one of their abilities, or do they have other abilities, and perhaps this might be one of them, remembering a past life?
I think that lots of times children have the ability to read energy.
Okay.
And whether it's reading a past life, reading the future, sensing a spirit in the home, sensing someone is sick, knowing what needs to be said, being able to pass a message that's coming through a dimension. Lots of times, children can see in full spectrum. They can, they follow their instincts. Humans are the only animal on the planet that doesn't follow their instinct for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
But
and
it
children
seems
still
like,
have it.
it seems like kids do, and I know there's some theories about that because they're so young, they're still connected to that spirit world. So there are certain things that are happening with them at a young age that they're still tapped into. So they have these abilities, and one of those, I mean, you're talking about, talking in German, at 4 or 5 years old, and but other things that some of these kids are able to do, does that go by the wayside for some of them, or some? I know some of these kids, grow up and become, amazing psychics as well. So what happens during that time where some of these abilities go by the wayside?
I think that we choose certain aspects of our personality that we cling to, and then there's others that we have to let go so that we can continue to grow. Otherwise, we would just. I often wonder, you know, my son's 18, and I was thinking, okay, what is a Russian soldier from early World War II going to do with his life as an 18-year-old going through puberty, having been through puberty yet again?
Yeah.
What kind of girls is he going to be attracted to? Is it going to be girls that are prudish and ladylike, or is he going to be into, gothic girl? I mean, who knows, right?
Is he into Russian
So,
girls? I mean, that's
yeah, yeah. So I thought, what's it going to be? And how much do you remember that's going to hold you back? How much are you going to remember that'll take you forward or scare you? So, I have, that is the dance that I do still as the mother of two psychic children, that, my son had a ghost of one of his fellow battle buddies here at the house with
oh
him.
wow.
He was about 3, 4 years old. And I remember him saying, I couldn't hear the conversation. I mean, I do have some ability, but this was not meant for me. I didn't hear the conversation, and I saw Elijah shaking his head, and there were words back and forth. And then Elijah got in my arms, and he was crying. And I said, "Son, what happened?" And he said, "Josh was leaving. He got chosen to go back. He's coming back, but I'll
Wow.
never see him again. I don't think we'll find each other."
Oh, that's sad.
I want to thank you for saying something you just said, because I get questioned about this and I can't get people to understand, and you just did it not even knowing it. When you said it wasn't meant for you to know, it wasn't for you. My son had a guide, had a protector when he was young, and he called him Papa. He never called his dad Papa. Or no, he called his dad Papa. His name was Father. He never called his dad Father, never called anybody else Father, never used the word grandfather. Father was with him from the age of about 1.5 till he was almost 6 years old. And I could not see Father, and I can see dead people. I couldn't hear their conversations. I couldn't hear none of that. And the most frightening thing to me was when my son pointed out during the Dracula 2000 movie, the Judas Iscariot scene where he's hanging and the silver is falling at his feet. My son, who had never seen that movie before, looks up at the TV because he came downstairs and he goes, "That's Father, Mama. That's Father. Judas freaking Iscariot." And
Wow.
yes, and I was always worried to a certain degree I couldn't see Father, but he never did anything that caused my son any harm. And I always thought the same thing. It's not meant for me. No one could understand why me, who sees dead people, couldn't see that. Wasn't for me. Thank you for saying that. Just because we can see or talk to dead people doesn't mean we can see and talk to every dead person.
Right.
Nobody can do that. Thank goodness, because ew.
Well, how many dimensions are there? How many lines of energy would we need to tap into? I mean, we would never be able to achieve anything.
No.
And it's not
Right.
meant for us. If we're clued into something, we're going to get the full picture. And when you do a reading on someone, you're going to pass the entire message, and then you probably won't even remember it because it's not for you.
I don't remember a word. And people will message me like 9 months later, "Vanessa, you're not going to believe it. What you said happened." I'm like, "Score. Don't know what you're talking about. Don't have a clue."
I'm
But
glad that
yes.
that was happening for you, but I don't remember it.
Yes. Don't have a clue. But yay.
Let me ask you something, Lee, because we do, like I said, have a lot of great questions here from our Mad Hatters down in the chat room. You were talking about your son talking with one of his ghost buddies from a previous life. So Murtaza Arif asked, in reincarnation, do you think there's also a possibility of paranormal entities making up this information and passing it down to us?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. My cousin, my little, well, he would be my son's, so he's my nephew. My little nephew is 7 years old, and his house is haunted by a spirit that is trying to convince the adults in the house that he's being haunted by someone that he killed in a past life.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
And
So how
I
do
think
we
that
know
is,
what's the truth and what's not? I mean, that's going to be very difficult for something like
yeah.
that.
But luckily, I wasn't going by what Joshua was saying. I was going by what Elijah remembered.
Hmm.
You
There
know,
you go.
Joshua had very little to say to anyone about anything. He would come and he would go, and it was, hey, how you doing? Here's my toy. How are you doing today? You know, I'm getting ready to go to bed, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And he's gone. Elijah would remember I jumped out of the airplane with a pillow over my head. Um, and he would draw pictures, and all the
Oh,
children
okay.
and the pictures had stars on their chest. And I look it up, and, you know, Jewish children or gypsy children had to wear the star on their
Right.
chest.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I'm having to look it up, and this was the the Russian partisan movement that he was a part of. And I looked. I'm telling you, I've got a book this thick of notes and pictures and things that he, listed out to me, you know. So yeah, Joshua didn't have a lot to do with Elijah's memories, but he was certainly a very large part of confirmation.
Okay. Interesting.
But a spirit can only do kind of damage that you allow them to. If you're not making a
Exactly.
strong stand,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not making a strong stand with who you are and what you want to happen in your life and the life of your family and children, then that can happen not just from the living, but from the dead as well.
Oh,
Hmm.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where being a mom comes into play.
Yeah.
Like, hmm like, okay, I'm a spiritual mom, and we're going to either do this the right way, or you can either take the sweet or the heat with this. If we're going to do this the right way, or if these spirits are going to mess with my son, they're going to have a whole nother set of problems. Which is
Exactly
why,
right.
which is why I've studied Reiki, I've studied Qigong, I've studied shamanism, I've studied medicine wheel, how to tune those in order to create force fields and
Hmm.
to protect him. And when he's having these memories, he doesn't need anything messing with him. That's not right.
No.
I mean, he's
So,
already dealing with enough. And
yeah.
now I don't have to. He's 18 and he's much more powerful than me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people are very interested in reincarnation and learning how that works, and people are very interested in their past lives. So, Tom McNicholas asks if we can choose, can we remember our past? Is there something, maybe some techniques that we can do to try to bring up some of those memories?
I think Vanessa probably would have some great answers on that. But I'm thinking guided meditation is the easiest way to do this. Take time to relax your mind. And when I mean by relax your mind, I don't mean, listen to some music that makes you calm and have a glass of wine. Really just lay down or sit in a comfortable position, sit in your favorite chair, however you need to do that, and try to make your mind not think of anything at all. Just listen to your breath. And then once you start to do that, you can feel your energy. You'll know what emotion you have in just your natural state of mind, and then you can slowly work your way back, see how far back you can remember, and then go beyond your memories. And yeah, I would highly recommend keeping a dream journal by your bed.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And if you have any unusual phobias, unusual memories, or a fondness for certain things, definitely start looking into that. If you have a desire to go to Greece and it's something you've always wanted to do, or to London or something like that, there may be a reason for that. You know, Like take, for instance, when I took my daughter into an antique store, I could take her in at a very early age. What I would do is I would put gloves on her hands, little white gloves, and she'd wear a dress, carry her pocketbook. And that way I'd say, don't get your gloves dirty. Tell me I'm not
That's sneaky.
clever. Don't get your gloves dirty. Don't touch anything. You'll get your gloves dirty. You know, and so we would go through, and she could read at about 4, certain words specifically. But we were going through, and she said, I don't believe that. She might have been 5 then. I don't believe this. And I said, what is it, honey? That is not a chocolate set. That is not a tea set. That's a chocolate set. My daddy gave me one like that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I know that she couldn't read chocolate set, you know. And she told the lady, that is not a tea set. That's a chocolate set. Oh, you're so smart. How did you know that? And I'm going, oh, my God, let's get her
Oh, that's
here.
wild.
Yeah. And then at the end of the antique store, she's talking to a spirit that's standing there who owned part of the furniture. It was an estate sale.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. But all of this was going along to say, I think I digressed away from your question.
No, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. It all ties in. But let me ask you something, because you mentioned keeping a dream journal, and I have had a dream of a past death. But we've had some other questions here down in the chat room that tie right into this. From Pungai Fungi, I wondered if some of our dreams are really past life memories. Sharon Lane asking, I wonder if our dreams can open up answers to past lives. So how does that work? How do dreams and past lives work? And how can you tell the difference between what is just a dream and what might be a past life memory?
I feel like the intensity level is something that will take it to the next level for you. If you're having the dream over and over, and it's not something that you can solve. Okay, have you ever seen someone that you haven't seen in years, and you're like, God, what is his name? What is his name?
Right.
And you lay down at night after the day's over with, and God, his name was, Ralph. I remember that now. Well, it's very similar to that. You're having this dream because your body's trying to remember something. So what happened with me, I had a dream of, I had my dog. I clearly was a Native American, kind of a maiden type, running, having fun, fishing out of a stream. I've got my dog. I'm filleting the fish, and I'll give the dog the carcass of the fish, and I'm putting the fish in my pelt. And a guy comes over the hill and attacks me. And I'm fighting, struggling for my knife, and my knife is floating downstream because the handle's made of wood. Mm-hmm. And I could not grab it fast enough. And I wake up over and over and over and over. So my husband bought that knife. He found a knife like it.
Oh, wow.
He found one, I would assume at a gun show maybe, or something like that. But this time he wanted it to be weighted down so that it wouldn't float. And he put it on the mantle in our bedroom. I said, now you've got your knife, you're safe. And then I was able to finish the dream and go into the next level of it. I actually did survive, and I saw what happened, and we were attacked, and it was a long thing. So it helped me move on to the next level. So put your thinking cap on, try to take some of the emotion out of it if you can, and figure out what you can do to go to the next step of the dream. And it'll make sense if you do that.
One thing they can do, and I found this out with my first full imagery of one of my previous lives and deaths. It is quite possible during this process to pull your current self out of the self that was then and actually watch what happens with your own two eyes. I did that. I was able to pull myself out of that body and watch from a distance, from a safe distance, as they killed me. And as horrible as that sounds, that gave me closure. That gave me a great deal of closure.
I have seen people do guided questioning, like the FBI. Okay, so you're a witness to a crime, or you're a victim of a crime. Take me back to the crime. What was he wearing? What do you see? What do you hear? Because you're going to remember more than you realize.
Right.
and go through these things step by step. And the next thing you know, you're able to read a license plate, or you're able to pick up on something. And if you can go into those context clues, then you're going to realize what era you're in and that kind of thing. And it may take guided hypnosis. It may take, doing that for yourself, just listening to some guided meditation. But I highly
And it might not
recommend
happen
Yeah.
right away. A lot of times it's going
Right.
to take several times doing this.
Yes.
Fear will keep it away.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So
You have to just keep reminding yourself you're not there anymore.
Hmm.
You just have to keep reminding yourself you're not in danger anymore.
Right.
But you can only move forward if you deal with the danger you were in.
That's right.
so we
And
haven't.
sometimes
Go ahead.
people aren't able to do the things they want to do. Like, take, for instance, have a long-term commitment or a happy marriage or something like that, because they were victimized and now they're afraid of it.
Mhm.
They were murdered by a spouse that they were wealthy, and they were murdered in order to take their money. Now they've come back and they're afraid. Like, take, for instance, when my son was in The Ghost Inside My Child, um, there was a child and he was afraid to leave home, and he had night terrors that he was smothering. And he wrote beautiful stories, and he was very gifted in that respect. But these night terrors really, really bothering him, and a lot of his writings were very old school. Well, long journey, but as
Right.
it turns out, he wrote Gone with the Wind.
Wow.
Oh
And
wow.
yes, he wrote Gone with the Wind, and he was running his tractor, after he had written it and become somewhat popular. The tractor flipped over and smothered him to death.
Wow.
So
Oh wow.
he never knew that his writings were as wildly accepted as they were. He had no idea he had been as successful. So he was always asking about his writings, and, Mom, what will happen to this if I die, and that kind of thing.
Right.
He insisted his birthday was a different, and it was actually his birth date. The one that wrote Gone with the Wind. It was a beautiful story, and he was able to go to the museum to see, his book, and actually go meet some of the family members that he had
Wow.
before, and go
Oh,
to his
interesting.
grave.
Yeah.
So he really was able to get closure, and he's a wonderful writer now.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing.
We have an interesting question here from Betty Lange, Grand Old Folks. It's kind of almost like the opposite of everything that we've been talking about in, kind of the approach that we've been discussing here on this episode. And she asked, is there a way to get out of reincarnation? Can you prevent yourself from coming back?
Now, I've had people tell me that have dealt in reincarnation. Let me be very specific. They're part of the Reiki hospital in India, and as we know, um, in India, the majority of people do believe in reincarnation, and they understand that this is a widely accepted concept. Okay, they believe that you have to be very obvious and say, "I will not come back this time. I am finished. I am finished. I will not come back again." Or they will say, "I'm going to basically keep an emotional checkbook, and I'm going to say what I mean to say. And if I say something I don't mean to say, I'm going to go back and apologize. I'm going to, not have any regrets whatsoever. There's not going to be any soul ties." And that's a big deal, not having soul ties.
Yeah.
And they're not coming back. But, a lot of people think it's a bit selfish to be that way.
I
almost-
don't.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, part of your soul family, part of your soul group might want to see you the next time around. And if you're not there,
I'm going to
we
be a
miss
guide.
out. Okay.
And there are those that are actually going with me.
Okay.
And if we choose, once we're over there, to come back, that's different. But exactly what Lee described is exactly what I do. I say what I mean what I say. If I'm wrong, I apologize. If I'm right, I let you know. I don't bullshit around. I don't pussyfoot around. It is what it is. There's no fuckery. There's no
Yeah.
imagery. It just is what it is. And I make no apologies for that.
Well,
I've done my time.
yes. When I had cancer,
Hmm.
and I was facing my mortality. So I went back and sort of did some an emotional, I took inventory,
Yes.
and there's some things that didn't go like I wanted it to, and things that went really well that I didn't take advantage of, and this and that. And I started making my notes and writing letters, and some of them I had to burn and send to the oblivion because that's where they were. But others I was able to go back through, and I've tried to keep it that way.
Yes.
However, Native American, the real Red Walk, believes that you will stay with your family as an ancestor for
Mm-hmm.
generations in order to guide them and lead them and love them. And so now I'm faced with the idea, do I stay with my soul family, or do I stay with my biological family and be an ancestor for them? Because I
You
might get out of
That's
the
tough.
loop.
you can be a guide without being earthbound.
Hmm.
And that is the one thing that I'm very comfortable with. I'm very comfortable with the soundness of my own soul. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I don't have any issues with that. And I'm comfortable enough in the knowledge that I've obtained through the trauma that I've suffered through, that anyone that I have to guide after the fact, after I'm long gone, I can do that. I can do that with a clear conscience, a clear mind, and an open heart. I don't wish to go through all of this again. I think it's too much to ask of any one person. And I mean, people, you're right. People do think that that's selfish. I'm tired of being strangled, hung, and raped.
Hmm.
I'm good.
Well, humans are animals. And when they see something they want to obtain and
Of it.
control, covet, that's the word.
It's not
Because I've
fun.
clearly I've had similar experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like twins up in here, Mike.
I know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
pretty much, pretty
Yeah.
much. So let me ask one last question here from Murtaza Arif. It's an interesting one. And it has to do with the religious debate on this. So he says, "I like to learn more about reincarnation debate with others too. How do you answer critics from Abrahamic religions about reincarnation being a true phenomenon?" So basically, religions that are just like, you're born, you live your life, you die, you get judged, and then you move on to wherever it is, and that's it. So how do you engage in that sort of debate?
It's so hard. I've got probably I've got a I told you I've got my book that I
Mm-hmm.
kept through the whole thing, and there's several, at least 18 different scriptures that talk about the everlasting soul and about reincarnation, and the majority of it is in the Old Testament. And usually I refer back to those. I don't have those to memory right now. Like I
Okay.
said, my son's 18, but I could probably reach over there and grab it because I'm looking. I probably can, because you might want to see what my son used to look like. I could show you what he looks
Oh,
like
that'd be
now and
cool.
what he looked like
Yes.
before. So I usually don't debate when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to that type of thing, because I know that their beliefs are extremely important to them, and it's a faith-based religion. I don't have a religion; I have a spirituality, and
Yeah.
mine is not faith-based. Mine, is more proven to me, but someone else's reality is as real to them, and for me to tell them they're wrong is just as blasphemous as my them telling me. So I just, I wish you well, I wish you love, that type of thing to those kinds of people. And if they have questions, if they would like to see the phenomena we've experienced with my family, I will explain it to them, as long as they guard what they say and don't pass negative energy this way, because this is a very what's the word I'm looking for, Vanessa? It's
Very
a
real and very personal to you, and it isn't up for debate.
Yeah, I know what happened, and my little toddler saying these things to me, he trusted me, and
Yeah.
sometimes I face the fact that I feel like I betrayed him by even letting any of this be known. I waited until he was about 10 before I really spoke my mind of what happened, because I was really looking around saying, does anybody else have anything like this happening in their lives? Because this is some shit right here. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh
um,
yeah.
my husband, 3 months before he was to come home, my son looked at him and said, Dad, you're getting ready to go to war. And if you don't get killed when you first get there, you will have a close call just before you
Hmm.
come home. You need to be very careful. And when the bombs start, get down. Don't try to run. It's going to be your natural reaction to run. Don't run. Get down. And he explained some more. I wasn't even supposed to be in the room, but I was listening in the hallway. And I had to hear what was going on. I mean, my son's stoic face, instead of him crying, Dad, are you going to be okay? He was giving him, advice. And he wanted to see what kind of armor he was going to wear. Here's my little boy putting this big hat, helmet on, and all of
Hmm.
these pads, and Kevlar. And he was telling him, this is so much better than what I had. I really feel like you're going to be okay. Just remember, get down when the bombs start. And sure as the world, it was 2 months just before my husband was to come home, and they were bombed. And if he had run, the next bomb would have landed right on top of
Oh,
him.
wow.
And I've got pictures of the explosion of what happened. And he did explain that to my husband, that there were times when the enemy would destroy things that were very precious in order to hurt the soldier. And my husband they'd been giving candy to one of the schools nearby
Hmm.
to the children, and they blew up the school.
Oh, that's sad.
And so he explained everything to my husband, and sure, it just happened just like he said it
Hmm.
would. And there were studies done afterwards, that how to respond during a bombing, because the way that it would explode, it would bounce and then blow out, and how it would create the shrapnel. And if he had moved, it would have killed him.
Wow.
And so it happened just like Elijah said it would. So there's reasons why we have the memories we do.
Hmm.
Elijah said that if he meant carrying all of these memories just to save my husband's life for us, then he would have done that.
Yeah, I mean, that could very well be the case. Maybe he has all these memories to do that very specific thing, which is truly amazing. And to me, it's all part of how this universe is connected together. So we are at the end of the show, though.
When can we have
Yeah.
you back?
I would love to come back.
Yeah, we'll
I would
definitely have
love
to bring you
come
back soon, because we could keep talking
Mhm.
about this and so many other things, because you're so knowledgeable. And yeah, we absolutely enjoyed the show. But Lee, tell everybody how they can find you, listen to your show, your website, all of that wonderful stuff.
Right. I am on YouTube. You can just Google my name and it'll take you right to it. My name is so unusual. Leitreanna Terry-Brown.
Mhm.
And if you just get Leitreanna, it'll go right to
Boom.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
I don't know anybody
only
else
one.
with your name. Yeah.
Right. And also, I'm on Facebook. You can reach out to me that way. With Dragus Productions. We've got 5 other radio shows that actually play the broadcast, but then we have a podcast that comes after. The name of my show is Family Spirit International. And I am writing a book, and the book right now is not about reincarnation. It's actually about the 4 generations, I'm 5th generation, of the paranormal, the women of my family being investigators. And I've gone back and investigated where they investigated. And I'm
Very
giving
cool.
Yeah, that's
their
amazing.
their experiences versus our newfangled
Mhm.
way of doing it that my 96-year-old grandmother says we get too technical. It should just be the old school with the
Right.
candles and all of that. The candles
Okay, I
and the
love her
coffee.
already. Okay, because I'm old school. I love her
Old
already.
school. Yeah, you guys, Vanessa, YouTube would click.
Oh yeah.
But
I
I would
don't
love
doubt
to.
it.
I would love to tell you more about the book. I'm more than halfway finished, and I would love to come back and I can show you some of the pictures, some of the drawings
Yeah.
and things.
Would be wonderful.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, definitely love to have you back. So, Lee, again, we loved having you on the show. We'll definitely set up a time to have you come back. And everybody, go check out her website, tune into her show, and when the book comes out, buy that as well. So,
Thank you.
and we'll have you back to promote the book is what we'll do.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You take care. You have a good night.
I had.
All right, Leitreanna Brown. She was
awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. I've known her, like I said, Vanessa, almost as long as you. I think I've probably known you maybe a year or two longer, but pretty close because I was on. I mean, that Family Spirit show that she's doing. She was doing that like 8 years ago or whatever,
Wow.
and I was on that show back then. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a while.
Oh, hey, let me tell the viewers something real quick.
Real quick, then we'll get to the shout
real
outs.
quick. Yeah. For those who were asking me, when we're going to Scotland, when we're filming in Scotland, Mama just got the tickets today, and we are set. Schedule is set, April 11th through the 18th.
There you go.
2021 in Scotland, baby. Scotland, baby.
Awesome. That's going to be great. Going to be fantastic.
Oh, no.
So, and
I'm so excited.
some people at the very beginning were commenting about not used to having, Mike without a background. It's all in the boxes. Next week, we'll hope to have it set up. It's a little different here. And actually, I forgot to turn on the overhead light. Dang it. I actually do have the overhead light set up, but
Your lighting's really good.
it actually seems to, be looking all right here. So, and those that have a good ear will remember there's a little bit of an echo in that glorified garage that we called a studio, and that's not going on this time. So I'm liking the setup so far, but yeah, I'll try to have the background for next time.
Yeah.
So
It'll work.
I have to figure out how to set it up. But all right, let's go ahead and get to the shout outs. I do want to thank, of course, Quarantine Ghost for moderating the chat and dishing out cookies. I don't know, were you guys doing the cheesecake down there earlier? I don't know, but but thank you so much for moderating the chat. Let's get to the Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. We have Tom McNicholas, B3 Airspace, Pamela Queen, Joe Chandler, Andrew Cox, Dustin Samario, and Trucker David Y. This is David Yeisley. So thank you all very, very much for being Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. I know it's been a little sparse there the past couple of weeks, but I have been, of course, moving. But some more like behind the scenes stuff and things like that will be going up here very soon. And so those that are Patreon patrons, different levels, different tiers, can get access to those different surprises. So tune into that. Patreon.com/Haunted Road Media. All right, so now on to the shout-outs. Hit the participants tab over here. And also, directly after the show is Beyond the Shadows. I didn't have a chance to get the Facebook event and all that crazy stuff set up. It's just very busy. But we're talking about spirits don't have color. The color of spirits. We're talking about that. Yeah. I'm not getting extremely political, but given everything that's going on, we'll touch on it a little bit here. So, all right. We got Andrew Does Trucking Gnomes, Brandon Wallace. Thank you both very, very much. Chipper Terry, thanks for joining us again. There's Christine Jones and Christopher Stanton. Appreciate you having you on board tonight. Elena the Fam, as always, thanks for joining us. Eva Gellert, thank you very much. There's Betty Lange, Grand Old Folks, and Greg Rankin, thank you as well. Helen Espinoza, thank you very much. Jennifer Bloomer, thanks for joining us once again. Jill Nimchinsky and Joe Chandler, as well as Kitty Palmer and Mr. CO2. Thank you all very, very much. Murtaza Arif and Pungai Fungi. Great to
Love
see
that
you.
name.
I know. I always have so much fun saying that. We have Robert Hanna and Sandra Griffin. Thanks for joining us tonight. Scotty Fox. Sharon Lane, Tammy Heisman, thank you very, very much. There's Tom McNicholas down there in the house. Tim Schoen. I can't reach back and grab the coffee and say, this episode is brought to you by Haunted Road Roast. It helps you on ghosts. I have it all packed up. So,
Yeah.
next week. Tanya Sargisian. Vanessa Hogel's in the chat. Who's she?
I was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who is that bitch?
I don't know her. No, newbie.
All right.
Victoria Monday, thanks for joining us. All right, let's see who may have missed. I know Guha was in here earlier, so shout out to Guha. I think I got Robert Hanna. Let's see who else is in here, because that participants tab always miss somebody. I don't know. Maybe it was pretty thorough. I will say Diane Hilbert. I don't know if she was actually down there this evening, but we want to give her a shout out. Yeah, she's She's been battling some health issues, going through some
Yes.
stuff, but she seems to be moving on to a better place. But
Yes.
as she goes through this stuff, we always, want to, put some positive
Send
vibes
happy
up there for her.
thoughts.
Yes, send happy thoughts. I say positive vibes, but happy thoughts work too. All right. So I think that's probably going to be about it. I'll go all the way back down. Yep, there's Guha. And, just me charms. Awesome. Good to see you as well. So there's Greg Rinkin. I think that's it. All right. So stay tuned for Beyond the Shadows coming up next. Appreciate everybody here for Leitreanna Brown. Check out her stuff. And stay tuned. Just hang out about 10, 15 minutes while I switch everything out. Actually, I don't have a whole heck of a lot to switch out. Just the software side of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just the software side of it, which I still have to do, but it does take a few minutes. So, all right, everybody.
Later.
We'll see you soon. They heard that.
Sorry.
You always provide them a laugh as we